Greetings, my fellow gamers, and welcome to what I hope is the first in a long series of Stellaris tutorials. So please, let me know if this video is helpful to you in the comments. Warfare in Stellaris is a bit different from other 4X games. In other 4X strategy games, you generally can just declare war on your opponents, and then fight until one empire is left standing, preferably your own. Any territory you conquer is yours, no question asked. This is in contrast to Stellaris, where you must first pick specific war goals, and you do not fight until death, but rather until you reach a predetermined war score. In this video, I will go over the selection of war goals, the different types of war goals, and how to fight a war and gain war score to ultimately win. So here I am as the Zargon conglomerate, and we wish to expand our borders. We cannot expand into this fallen empire near us. However, here is the Proc Kingdom, an excellent target for our expansion. In order to select a war goal, you will want to click on the enemy, or I should say target empire, and go into diplomacy and click on declare war. Here, you can see all of your available war goals. Depending on your ethics and current political situation, some war goals may be unavailable. For example, I cannot vassalize the Proc Kingdom, probably because they are too powerful relative to me. So to go through the available war goals, we have less expensive war goals at the top. These war goals will require less war score to achieve. For example, we have Humiliate, where if you win the war, then the Proc Kingdom will suffer happiness for 10 years, and you will gain 100 influence. The Open Borders war goal is simply that. The enemy will be forced to open borders with you, so after the war, you can move freely through their territory. Stop Atrocities is a great thing to use against an enemy empire that you know is using slavery and purging. If you were to stop them from using slavery, that can really put a damper on their economy. Cede Planet is your typical conquest goal. If you select these war goals, after you win the war, you will gain control of the specific planet. So for example, if I choose Cede Planet Peraco, if I win the war, I will gain control of that planet. There is also the Liberate Planet goal. If you win the war and you have these goals selected, then the selected planets will form their own empire. Now the real advantage and the real amazing thing about the Liberate Planet war goal is that the newly formed empire will share your ethics, so you basically have a new friendly ally or trading partner. However, to be careful with the Liberate Planet war goal, because although the new empire shares your ethics, the citizens within that empire probably will not. They will probably share the ethics of the previous empire, so the new empire may suffer from all kinds of happiness penalties, and they may not be very reliable, they may be prone to internal factions, and they may be very weak because of it. In fact, that might leave room for another empire to come in and take over your newly liberated empire. But one of the best things about liberated empires is that since they will generally like you, you can vassalize them into your own empire and eventually integrate them into your empire. There is the vassalize war goal, which will just turn the target empire into a vassal if you win, but of course that is not available for me. There are other war goals not on this list. For example, you could ban artificial intelligence in a target empire. You can force the enemy to abandon a planet, which will basically cause all of the population units on that planet to be purged if you win the war, and that comes with some pretty serious diplomatic penalties. So now that we're here, let's actually declare a war. How about? Let's try the Cede Planet war goals and Liberate Planet war goals. So let's liberate Peroku. We'll drag that over to my empire here, the Zargon conglomerate. That's going to cost 31 war score. And now I can't liberate the same planet because I'm ceding it. And let's also liberate another planet, so that's going to form an empire. So this war is going to have a war score of 60. If we were in a federation, there would be other empires in this list here, and we could assign them war goals. We could also invite attackers, such as the Xin Empire. But the Xin Empire does not like me, so they are not likely to join the war. Now that I've selected my war goals, we can click Done. We can confirm, and because I had some ships in the enemy territory, 2 fleets have gone missing in action, so they will reappear in my friendly territory in a little while. And if you happen to have wormhole stations in the enemy empire, those will be destroyed. Alright, now we are officially at war with the Proc Kingdom. This will be a quick and brutal conflict, I think. I think we will be home for Christmas, as they say. And now that we are at war with the enemy, we will want to gain some war score. So the first thing we'll want to do is select our main fleet and send it into enemy territory. Here's the enemy planet we have selected for liberation. I have ordered my fleet to move towards it. We will, once we set up in orbit around it, we will begin bombarding and blockading the planet, which will give us war score. If you look at this icon on your screen, you will see that we are at -10 war score. This is a special situation for me because the Proc Kingdom were my tributary, so they were giving me energy and minerals. And in this war, they picked their war goal to fight for their independence. And if they win the war, they will no longer be my tributary. As you can see, war score has went from -13 to 0%. We are gaining war score because we are blockading the enemy planet. Another great way to gain war score is through planetary occupation. You'll want to build some ground forces before you go to war. Here I have a transport fleet, which I can send to the enemy planet. I will send them to enter orbit because we want to bombard the planetary defenses down to 0 before we invade. That should be done by the time our transport fleet arrives. When you're ready to invade, you can select your transport fleet, right-click the enemy planet, and land armies. An invasion combat will commence.
Secured.
The enemy planet has been occupied. As you can see, we have a 54.5 war score from the planetary occupation. In the negotiation tab, we could offer a white peace. We have this available because of our war score and our relative navy strength, and because of the length of the war. However, if we offer a white peace, we will not gain any of our war goals. It's essentially a draw. To get our last bit of war score, we should send our fleet into the enemy, into Parazor, the enemy capital system, the system that we selected for seeding. We will have to fight the enemy spaceport in this battle.
Hostile fleet engaged.
The enemy spaceport has been destroyed, but notice that our war score decreased. This space battle was considered a loss because of our own ship losses. You cannot gain war score from defeating enemy spaceports. This gives an intrinsic advantage to the defender. So you want to try and kill spaceports as quickly as possible to minimize your losses so you can minimize this war score loss. And of course, destroying mining stations does not contribute to war score. However, it will of course cripple enemy resources, which is of course advantageous to you. Here you can see that the enemy fleet is quite a bit stronger than mine. It may be necessary to retreat sometimes during war. If the battle is not going your way, all you have to do is click on the retreat button here, and your fleet will perform an emergency FTL. The enemy seems to be gaining the upper hand. I think we better retreat. Emergency FTL can cause some damage to your fleets. We are at the enemy capital world. It is blockaded, we've bombarded it, and we have ground forces for the invasion. Hopefully, this will be the final battle of the war. The enemy has quite a few forces, being that this is their home world. And now the enemy forces are falling. It is all over for them. Now if we look at our war score, we can see that we are gaining 95.4 war score for the occupation of Paroko. Generally speaking, occupying worlds that are part of your war goals will add even more war score. And now, shortly, we will win the war. And the enemy has surrendered, the best possible outcome. Let's take a look at our spoils of war. As you can see, we have ceded this particular system. It is now under our control. Very nice. The population that we've brought into our empire are unhappy because they have been newly conquered. And here is our liberated empire, the Galactic Parak Consortium. As you can see, they share our ethics of individualist and fanatic militarist. We have excellent diplomatic bonuses because we are the liberators, and also since our ethics match, we gain +10 for free individuals. And this was Warfare in Stellaris. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up, consider subscribing, and let me know what you think in the comments. My name is Rudy. Have a good one.